Okay, great. So welcome everyone to this session on intersectionality. It's really great to see everyone here today. And as I'm sure over the last 2 days, we have heard so much about how we are working and taking different approaches on the farm animal issue. And it's very important that we can be inclusive and as comprehensive in our approach as possible. And this is what the session will be talking about. We are very fortunate to have two great speakers and also my good friends with us. They bring with them a wealth of experience, and they're going to share about their intersectional approaches in the two countries that they have been working in. First up, we have Anbu Boopal from Acres in Singapore. And Anbu's been working with Acres since 2007. She is now the co-CEO of Acres, and she will be telling you about their work with the farm animal welfare in Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here and very grateful for this opportunity, not just to share, but also to learn from everyone here as well. It has been a really amazing day yesterday, and my heart was feeling really full just being surrounded by people who care about farm animals. Point at you? Okay. Just want to give a quick introduction to Acres. We are an animal protection charity organization in Singapore. We just turned 22 years, and I've been with Acres for this past 17 years. I remember attending conferences with some of you here as well, so happy to be here. And we focus on addressing the root cause of the issue, even though many people might know us for the wildlife rescue work that we are known for in Singapore. So we have a 24-hour hotline that people call us to rescue wildlife in distress. If you're wondering whether there is wildlife in Singapore, we get about 5 to 10 new wildlife patients a day and handle about 60 to 70 cases. And that also brings us to an animal crime investigation unit that we run to handle tip-offs related to trafficking of wildlife, as Singapore is one of the top 10 hubs in the world. So you might be wondering, where does helping farm animals fall under? So humane education forms the backbone of the organization. Like one of the speakers mentioned earlier, it's about reducing the need for the organization in the long run. So we work on raising awareness from very young age. And the foundation of this department, which was actually created by Amy, who is here with Welfare Matters today, that animals are sentient beings, and we start very young on the fact that animals can feel just like you and I. And we also promote cruelty-free living. I think we heard a lot of positive things about Singapore and alternative proteins in the past 2 days. So it is very easy to make animal-friendly choices in Singapore, even though a lot of food is imported. So we actually talk about simple everyday choices that people can make in Singapore, in a developed city like Singapore. And so today I just want to share a very quick case example that we did during the COVID period. And also it was something new to the Singapore community because they did not expect this to come from us, because people usually assume us to be a wildlife rescue group. And also an example on how we can engage in a unique city-state like Singapore, where we don't have a lot of farms, but a lot of live animals are imported into Singapore on a daily basis for slaughter and food, and also a lot of meat gets imported into Singapore. So this was a very popular scene in the tourism industry in Singapore because people find this very unique as a tourist to come and see wet market with live animals. And there was an emphasis on how live animals are slaughtered in Singapore's wet markets. Starting from exotic meats like wild-caught turtles and fish, frogs, and eels as well. So then COVID happened. But since for the past decade, ACTAsia has been appealing on sale of live turtles, I'm sorry, I should have warned you about the graphic images, but these are the turtles that are sold, live turtles that are sold in netting, and live frogs that are also sold at our wet markets in Singapore. It was legal, it was allowed, there were no regulations that considered this as a breach of any conditions. And people would also buy them live and release them into nature spaces to get good karma points. So, which was also illegal, but it was still happening. And the turtles that you see here, many of them are not only imported from China as captive bred, but also wild caught from Indonesia. What happens is people buy these turtles and release them into the sea, and we get activated for rescue for a stranded turtle, and we realize they are freshwater turtles and they don't make it through the rescue. So we realized that this was a root cause that we need to address. And so COVID happened. And wet markets were under a lot of scrutiny, were under fire, under spotlight. So we have been talking to the government for more than 10 years about this issue. Nothing has changed. So we decided to ride the wave. And we did a thorough investigation in February 2020 when the lockdown has not started, but the world was talking about wet markets. So I'm just going to play the video and continue speaking. So this was the campaign video that was shown to the government agencies in Singapore. It was not released to the public. What we did was, for the whole of February, when wet markets were already being spoken about, we did some undercover work to talk to the stall.
How much are the turtles? How much is the turtle? Yeah.
Almost 400.
400? Oh wow, expensive. Is this from Singapore?
1 kg, $36.
1 kg, $36.
This is about 7 to 8 kg.
7 to 8 kg. Is it from Singapore?
No, from Indonesia.
From Indonesia?
We fly over. This is a wild type. It's not rich. Wow.
Oh, it's wild.
As part of the strategy. So we addressed the part about Singapore consuming 70% of one country's quota for wild-caught turtles, and we spoke about disease transmission as well. We looked into the science behind it, the articles behind it. We spoke to some disease experts, and we also collected footage of them having rostral abrasions or nose abrasions from keeping them in crowded conditions, netting. So we collected as much information as possible. So this is how they are housed before they are slaughtered at the wet market. So you can still see them moving about, get abrasions. So we use the point that when you have injured animals, it opens up to infections. So they were also kept alongside other animals like live frogs. There is a frog farm in Singapore, but we also import live frogs from other countries. And there was also fish, including eels. And we got some evidence about how feces is also collected. And when we interviewed the stallholder,
Here? If you don't sell today, they stay here, you have to give them food or
No.
no food?
Whatever comes to the market here, all is on diet.
All is?
Diet. No diet.
Yeah, no diet. Okay.
They are on diet. All cannot eat.
Okay.
One after eat and slaughter, the stomach not digest, very smelly. Okay? All everything. All is hungry.
why I'm showing this is because this
You know what's hops? CROP, hops, you know?
Yeah.
Hops is the digestion. Dead body. You got full stomach, hops, very smelly. You are very hungry, hops, no smell.
Ah, yeah, better.
And the important point was that our undercover footage also revealed that the same gloves were used to handle the animals, including wild-caught turtles and their slaughter and the food and the money. So I don't have to buy meat, I can just buy vegetables, and the cash might have come in contact with wild-caught turtle meat as well. So we also used positive examples, which is Singapore did phase out eateries. So we approached the different government agencies. Singapore Food Agency protects safeguards the food security, food safety in Singapore. National Environment Agency talks about public health hygiene in an eatery. Animal and Veterinary Service safeguards animal welfare. NParks is to look into make sure that the wildlife trade does not threaten wild populations. So we appeal to different agencies and use different angles that we already shared during the video. And we use science-based arguments as well. And we also identified there were no welfare regulations on holding live animals for food. So in response to that, the first response was that there is no need to take action. So in April, we released the video to public. So ACTAsia, this is also another point to note, because in Singapore, the engagement has to be very different. It has to be working together, closed door dialogues first. Only when that doesn't work, then we go public. So it has worked in many areas, but when the engagement did not work, we went public, we released the video that I just showed, and media picked it up, and in response to that, the Singapore Food Agency said that if there are violations, we will take action, but currently there's no infringements. And we did consider whether there will be a public backlash, because everyone was scared during COVID before the lockdown was happening. We didn't want to do fear-mongering among the public, but we need to speak about it. This is our best chance. If we don't get hurt during this time, we will never be able to change anything for these animals. So we also wanted to talk about some other positive examples. So we said, hey, we have done it for poultry before. Can the government please do that for aquatic animals as well? So they are humanely, hygienically processed in a facility that is dedicated to do that and regulated premises. So again, we did not get a positive response. It said they can sell live animals here. So then we brought it higher up. Thankfully, one of our founders is also a member of parliament now, so we filed for a parliamentary question as well. And there was a lot of discussion in the parliament when the whole world was going through a lockdown. So in May, there was discussion on this, and we gave all the scientific papers to Louis Ng and also other parliamentarians to discuss about this. And again, if we missed 2020 window, by 2021, the world was already recovering, which means we will go to a place of complacency where we don't worry about live animals in wet markets. So we had to strike when it's still hot. And in August 2020, only within 5 months, this is why I really like how Singapore works, we got a response, because it was asked again and again in the parliament. And they informed us privately that by December 2020, we will end display and sale of live frogs, turtles, and eels. The fish was not included. Thank you. The fish was not included, unfortunately, but we knew that there was a lot more work that needs to be done. And both organizations, ACTAsia and SPCA, we gave our thanks and gratitude to them, and we did not share this information to the public. This is, again, another point that I wanted to share, because at that point, public were already worried about what's happening to them and their relatives. And also, it was a very difficult time, personally, also for me. My mom did pass away during that time in India, so we kept very quiet. We did not talk about it or give an update. And next year, one of the seafood restaurants actually took their crabs for a walk. They display live crabs, saying that they want to exercise the crabs. It was a publicity stunt, and in order to prevent atrophy of their muscles. So the public were very angry about this, and that gave us an opportunity to show public that, hey, you care about these animals who are sold in seafood restaurants for food. So we used that opportunity to say that, hey, by the way, we are happy to share that the government has stopped sale of live animals. So it was not that the government stopped because we campaigned, but also, by the way, they did a review last year and they stopped. So it is to give credit to the government agencies. And the SFA came out public. When the media read our Facebook post, they asked SFA, Singapore Food Agency, and we were grateful that they gave a response. But just note that there is no mention of welfare, but we are happy that it happened. So again, I think as the topic goes for today is the intersectionality, where public health concerns makes the government agencies to make life better for these animals, then let it be. It does help. So we use that approach for this. And today, just last week, we had a meeting with Singapore Food Agency and other agencies. I invited them to attend this conference, actually. And they were happy that I'm attending it. ACTAsia is attending it. And we have discussed that I will go back and present about all the amazing work every one of you are doing. So they could hear what the world is doing to help these animals, and hopefully things can change. But we are intending to form a working group on food animals welfare. If you're wondering why we use the term food, because we only have maybe 7 farms in Singapore. Most of the animals are imported, like pigs who come in from Indonesia over a 50-hour-long journey on a barge. There were also other incidents where live chickens who are transported from Malaysia get into really horrible situations like road traffic accidents or even die because of heat. And this is a very regular scene you can see at coffee shops in Singapore, where crabs are kept in crowded conditions. So there are plenty of work that needs to be done. And after hearing so many ideas here, we are hopeful that we can do more for these animals in the food industry. And I'm going to skip this part because of the time. Yeah, we have only 1 minute. So I'm just going to quickly say that we have, as a wildlife rescue takes the mainstream on our social media, we always try to insert about cruelty-free choices. Because our audience get very excited about wildlife, endangered species, pangolins and stuff. So we keep inserting this message because it's an amazing opportunity to engage people who are interested in wildlife. We also have some chickens who fell off a slaughterhouse truck along the highway who were rescued, and we kept them at our wildlife rescue center. They have made quite a few people change their mind about eating chickens. So it does go a long way in telling stories. I'm going to skip the video.
Eat what you want.
You need to stop right.
It's all on our TikTok. But we also use hashtags to make sure that we reach the right audience. So people who are interested in sharks will be hearing about fish as well and the issues that they face. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anbu. I didn't have the heart to stop her. Such a great presentation to see how this campaign worked, and especially sensitive to how the culture is in Singapore and the timing of when the messaging is released. I think there's so much that we can learn here. But next up, we have Zhou from China. He's been more than 10 years now working in China for the animals, starting first with RSPCA International, and he is now the China representative for compassion in world farming.
Thank you.
Take it away, Jeff.
Thank you, Joy. Hello, everyone. I realize that's how intense it can be as a speaker because you cannot really realize how time flies. But I'm really happy to be here today because during the event, I have the opportunity to meet quite a lot of old friends and old colleagues who are leading the animal welfare movement in every walks of life, in every region. And also really happy to network and communicate with each other about, and also encourage each other to move on. And today I'm going to share a little bit about, because the topic is intersectionality, it's more about how we can share the knowledge or share the message to the outside world. First of all, I would like to make a brief introduction. for Compassion in World Farming. Compassion was founded in 1967 by a British farmer, Peter Roberts, and his wife. And now we have offices mainly in European countries, but also in other nations, like in China. We have a small team based in China. We have 4 staff there. And I feel very proud every time when I share about this. We, through positive engagement with stakeholders, and now we are set to benefit about 2.5 billion animals each year. And especially our Good Farm Animal Welfare Awards have been set up since 2007. Now it covers almost all the ranges of the species, and is set to benefit about 883 million animals a year. And thanks to the previous speaker this morning, I think one of the latest achievements that Compassion has made is about End the Cage Age European Citizens Initiative, which was started in 2018. And in 1 year time, we successfully got joined by over 170 organizations, with the success of getting over 1.4 million European signatures for the legislation proposal. And unfortunately, only last month, we got the latest news about this kind of End the Cage Age. Is about the legislation proposal was shelved by the parliament, but the team has been working on still very hard on it, and hope it can make better progress in the following time. And just coming to China, we started our program in China about the Good Animal Welfare Production Award since 2013. And now we have successfully engaged with over 120 producers in terms of the species of pig, broilers, and laying hens, with the award winners set to benefit about 287 million animals a year, and the number is still increasing now. As we are talking about how can we pass the message of farm animals in our life, we have to think about it in a holistic form. If we look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, actually it perfectly described the need of the people as consumers, the hierarchy of animal product consumption, because we are not supposed to accuse others lack of moral or lack of concerns to a sentence of the animals when they are unable to feed themselves with proper nutrition. So the basic need for the consumption is the physical need. And then building on that is the other levels. And we need to look at the different needs, different levels of needs, and then pass the message accordingly. Taking China for a specific case, I believe that all the nations are developed and evolved based on a standard understanding of moral and the building up of social moral status. And if we look at the traditional Chinese culture, which has also some big influence in some of the Asian countries, we trace back about Confucianism, which is one of the major beliefs being passed down thousands of years ago, and even over 2,500 years ago, Confucian has already mentioned about the respect of life and the harmony between nature and human. I recall a quote about, we should not shoot at the birds which go back to their nest in the evening, because thinking about the family of the bird is waiting for her or for him to come back. And also we should not fish without a net, to reserve the resources for the future use. And also if we look at the Taoism, which is the respect the nature and all things are equal, which reminds me a quote which has been widely used by our community is Mahatma Gandhi said, the greatness of a nation and the moral values can be judged by the way the animals are being treated. I think these kind of relics can be well used for us to relate back the current animal welfare concept, which has been considered as a kind of concept developed in the Western countries and related very well to the individual countries' traditional culture and traditional beliefs, which can relate it very well to the daily life because we have got the heritages passed down from the former generations, and we need to bring it forward with us to the future generation. And this will get us better connected to the concept of animal welfare, respect to lives, and compassion to the sentient beings. And also, we think it's important to do the life education and about farm animal welfare related to the life education. You know, all beings are raised up by their parents. So when the parents are facing, you know, life is difficult enough. I don't think it's necessary for us to put more miserable. Of course, aside from reviewing the truth, what's behind the scene, which is not easily being understood by the citizens, it's important for us to let them know the information, but not to put too much misery into it. I have the experience in the last years at the beginning when I got into this area. You know, I started to communicate with quite a few of the companion animal rescuers or stray animal rescuers. And during that time, personally, I felt very encouraged or inspired by their efforts that they have been put into this work, but I felt miserable by myself. I felt being drained by the stories or the kind of misery they shared with me, and I didn't feel encouraged. Of course, I think the same kind of empathy I can share with the other people is when I'm doing this work is more like sharing the truth, but try to encourage them to look at the positive side of what we can achieve by working on this, instead of just repeating the miserable stories about animals. It doesn't help. And the good model to influence others is to set yourself as a role model that they would like to follow and would like to become in the future. So building up the kind of respect of life and understand the meaning of life, putting this kind of message into the life education of a parent to the children, thinking about how they're bringing up their children to become a respectable person and with good honor and good respect to life. This can be important to the parents. So if we can integrate animal welfare education into the life education, that will be very helpful. Also, aside from the consumers, nowadays, I think it's important also to engage with the retailer side because they make the decision. And the value, we need to highlight to the retailers the value of taking care of animal welfare in different layers in terms of improved product quality and food safety, and also enhance market competitiveness, especially integrate animal welfare into the corporate social influence in terms of CSR and ESG. And now we know that Compassion has initiated BB4 since 2012. And now we also have some other organizations working on the overall like ESG concerns. So through the financial investment institutions' influence to put more pressure and to give them more guidance to the retailers for them to high value the importance of animal welfare and other aspects of life in terms of biodiversity loss or global warming effect, this kind of factors into the ESG. As we are targeting about the farm animal welfare, so we have been raising this question all the time. Are we feeding the world or feeding factory farming? Because the data shown on the screen actually has been elaborated quite oftenly by different speakers. I wouldn't speak more about this because this world is in hunger, about 1/10 of the people are in hunger. And we are still thinking, when I started like 18 years ago, the number at the time was the human number was about 6 billion. And at that time, we said that every year about 60 billion animals, farm animals, are supposed to be slaughtered or be consumed by human beings. And we were worrying about what's happening in the year 2050. And with the time passing by, actually, the number of population is increasing bigger than we expected. And of course, the number of animals are set to be slaughtered by the year 2050 also increased dramatically, even surpassed our estimation. And this kind of situation will not change if we don't take actions. And luckily, the whole world are realizing this situation. Only 2 weeks ago, there was a livestock sustainable transition conference being held in Rome by FAO. And the whole society are talking about how we can develop a sustainable and regenerative agriculture which can feed the world for the future. And next week, there will be another Asian FAO division event, which will be held in China, co-organized by the Beijing Institute of Agriculture Sciences. It's about a multi-stakeholder platform for livestock transition. It's for sustainable livestock transition. It seems that all parties, we need to bring them together to talk about a bigger sense. Outside of our individual's feeling, it's more about the humanity's responsibility to sustain a sustainable food system for all the human beings and for the future. And if we see the, balanced dietary guideline released by Eat Lancet, actually now, when I look back at the China dietary guideline released by a certain kind of department affiliated to the central authority, it almost shows the same kind of figure about how much food we should consume. And just also want to like to share with you is during our Compassion's May conference in London, actually I spoke to a Danish guy, Christopher, who is chairing the Danish plant-based fund, which is funded by the Danish government. And also it's a national kind of strategy and a national initiative to support the plant-based diet by Danish. And also through our communication in later time in European countries, quite a few of the countries are starting or getting involved in this kind of initiative. And he will be sharing this kind of experiences to the world, also by attending the China Vegan Society conference, which will be held in this November in China. So it seems that through our joint effort, we can make the change, but it's important for us to engage positively with different stakeholders by letting out the message and calling on a joint action. So actually this has also been the detailed data about the food conversion rate, about why our world is lacking of the proper supply of the food, and why we should care about animal welfare from a holistic perspective. Above all, I think people care about themselves. First is the sufficient provision of nutrition, and above that, livestock industry, especially the intensive farming system, can relate to the spread of diseases, which we have learned a lot of lessons from it. And of course, by taking care of the animal welfare of the intensive farming system or the farming system, we can build up a society for a sustainable future, as well as build up the one world with one health concern. And also one world, one health, one welfare is the target for us to move on. I would like to close my session by leaving some more time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for that. So we do have a little bit of time. If anybody have any questions, please use the Hoover app. I don't see any questions come up yet. Are people hungry? Sorry? Sure. Any questions? Should I do the rounds? Okay, great.
Thank you, both of you, for such great presentations. And it's wonderful to have two veterans who have been working in the movement for so long, and especially in this region. I wonder if you could each highlight the biggest change you've seen in, you've both been working, did you both say 18 years? I think you both said 18 years. Was there something special that happened 18 years ago that you both started working in the movement? I'm curious, what are the biggest signs of change and hope that each of you have seen in your regions? I'd love to hear that from your perspectives.
Thank you. I think I'm grateful to have seen some changes, particularly in Singapore. The engagement with the government agencies have opened up a lot compared to years before. We have to do campaigns in the past. The pioneering team, Louis, Amy, and a couple more, we are always seen as a controversial group in Singapore, considering the landscape where you have to get permit to do a rally, and if you were to 5-6 people wearing a slogan on your T-shirt, it's actually not allowed to stand together, and so there are very strict restrictions. So over time, I think we have seen that the agencies are more open for engagement, getting inputs. They are also evolving to the changes that's happening around. That is one observation, and the public awareness. Public care a lot more about issues. Thanks to social media, pros and cons, they are exposed to plenty of these issues, which I think we have to tap on it to get them to take action as well.
Yeah. For me, I feel great changes have happened in China in the last 20 years. I always share with my colleagues, like, we have kind of surpassed the time which has been experienced by Western countries or European countries in the last 50 or 60 years, in the last 20 years. Because now we see animal welfare understanding in terms of public awareness being raised. If you, we have seen some questionnaire results reflecting the citizens' concern about animal welfare products is really high enough to compare with other questionnaires happened in other side of the world. Well, this is one thing. Of course, we are lack of the market recognition in terms of labeling system. Well, it's a time thing. And also we see kind of local, also national kind of research being done, carried out, in a wide range. And we see quite a lot of institutes, and especially the veterinary science universities have already included animal welfare, farm animal welfare, or this kind of content into the textbook, into their curriculum. And also from the legislation perspective, we have worked together with quite a lot of local communities and also the people who are involved in this. We have congressmen who have been helping us submitting the proposals, like even 10 years ago. And of course, until now, we didn't see much progress in the real result. Well, it's a long time process for us to continue. And even today, this morning, I'm communicating with the congressman that I'm in contact with about how we can work better, and by him to speak on the event that we are about to happen next week. So from also, like what I have shared just now, we have over 100, for our organization alone, we have over 120 producers which have been implementing animal welfare practices in in reality and make a benefit to the animals. So from all walks of life, we see the great changes in the understanding of animal welfare, and the real situation is happening. And also from the retailers and the market, I think the trend is there. Nobody can turn it around. And what we can do is to possibly make it faster and make it happen. Thank you.
That's great, Jeff. We do have a few questions that's come in. This one I think maybe goes for both of you. How do we continue these important conversations in culturally difficult and restrictive environments where a lot of animal rights issues are tied in with religion to achieve the best possible results for both animals and humans in general?
I think in Singapore we see so much diversity. There are different people with different following. So we have an agency which is designated for this to make sure that messaging that goes out is sensitive to different cultures and religions, followers in Singapore. Thankfully, it is very helpful to use, to quote compassion in religion. I think Jeff touched it a lot more deeply about culture, tradition, and also following belief systems that we have. It has always advocated for kindness, so we have not come across an example that asks people to be violent, so it helps a lot. One of the things is World Animal Day celebrations, where we have always spoken about cruelty-free lifestyle. When people bring their animals to the church to get blessings for World Animal Day, it happens in Singapore. I think several hundred animals came to the church. Aside, what happens to animals there, it gave us a great opportunity to talk about transforming their love for animals through meaningful actions in daily lives.
Yeah. Thank you, Anbu. And I believe that quite a lot of you are representing organizations working in China, and you all may have known the challenging situations. Of course, I understand it can be challenging in every nation about promotion of animal welfare. That's the reason why we are here, and to share and to support each other. Well, in China context, actually, which I wouldn't say is a difficult situation. Of course, we bear different cultural background, and also we cannot blame anybody. Every time I think about our colleagues back in Europe and the UK, they campaign and they protest actively and make progress there. I would think about what we can do in China. Actually, there is an understanding of animal welfare according to WOA, World Animal Health Organization, and FAO. Both of them have highlighted the importance of taking care of animal welfare with respect to local financial status and local culture. So bear this in mind. I think the best approach, no matter what kind of cultural background it is, with this idea bear in mind, I think positive engagement and finding solutions is very important. Taking China, for instance, I think through positive engagement, of course, the understanding of overseas NGOs are managed by the overseas NGO law there, which maybe bring a little kind of challenge to the management of the NGOs. Well, I think it's important to share the knowledge on a science-based practice, and also to engage with different institutions who can speak for you will be a good approach. That's the reason why we are integrating with, through the scientific journals. We are working together with the Beijing Institute of Agriculture, which is the leading institute, by contributing the animal welfare column to this scientific journal. And also we are about to set up the Animal Welfare International Research Center, which can possibly integrate better messages in terms of biodiversity, conservation, global warming, and also thinking about our national target has been set and been implemented in a good shape in terms of the carbon reduction, carbon peak target by 2030 and 2060, which Chinese authority has been putting so much effort on. And we can relate it very closely with the intensive farming system as well as animal welfare. So use all kinds of forces to integrate into the mainstream topics that being favored or being highly valued by the society is important. I think by this approaches is fair enough for us to think about our individual region or country and develop the strategy accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I think we're out of time, and that was a great note to end on, just to tie it all together. I think it's, knowing the landscape that we work in, our individual landscape, it's not, Asia is such a culturally diverse region. Even within one country, we've heard Chef Dave, talk about Malaysia and how many cultures there are in Malaysia, and that we need to be sensitive, but as well, we need to understand the landscape that we work in order to be able to take advantage of that, and being respectful and compassionate in the way that we deal with the different sectors. But as with Acres, that they are able to navigate both their political, they can use the local political systems to their advantage, and also understanding the social context that they work in, what kind of messaging works for their audience, and bringing everything together in a sort of understanding this comprehensive approach. Our goal to help animals, we have to be creative, we have to be strategic, and I'm repeating words that have already been said, but I think these are very, very important concepts, and again have been highlighted by both of our speakers here today. So thank you very much. There are still a couple of questions left on the panels or on the Whova app. So if you have time, maybe we can get those questions answered on the app, or you can catch our speakers a bit later, maybe at lunchtime. And I think I'm going to wrap up this session, and we can all go and eat. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.